The Little Albert experiment was conducted in 1920 at Johns Hopkins University by psychologists John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner. Watson and Rayner were trying to prove that they could condition a child who was previously unafraid to fear furry animals and various masks. Since Watson was a behaviorist, he believed that human and animal behavior can be explained in terms of conditioning, without appeal to thoughts or feelings. Rosalie Rayner was a research psychologist and assistant to John B. Watson. The two would later marry.
The experiment was meant to provide evidence to further prove Ivan Pavlov's theory of classical conditioning. In Ivan Pavlov's experiment, he trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a tuning fork. In Watson's experiment, they presented little Albert with a variety of stimuli, such as a white rat, a rabbit, a monkey, and a variety of masks. Initially, little Albert showed no fear to any of the items. After another round of showing him the stimuli, Watson would hit a metal pipe with a hammer, producing a loud noise, which made little Albert cry. He repeatedly did this. After a while, little Albert would cry at just the sight of the mouse, and even try to crawl away rapidly. Not only did little Albert cry at the sight of the white rat, but he also cried at anything that looked similar to the rat, such as a Santa beard or anything white and fluffy.
This experiment was known to be one of the most unethical experiments that would also attribute to creating the guidelines for ethics when it comes to experimenting. The biggest ethical violation would be the conducting of these experiments on this child without the informed consent of the child's mother. Little Albert was also diagnosed at birth with hydrocephalus, which is a condition where fluid builds up in the brain and causes the brain to swell. This would also eventually cause the death of little Albert when he reached the age of 6. Watson is criticized for this experiment because he was aware of the child's condition and proceeded with the experiment anyways. This could also be seen as a possible confounding variable in this experiment. Watson also did not take into consideration the psychological trauma that this would inflict on little Albert in the future.
Not only did this experiment demonstrate that emotional responses could be conditioned, but Watson and Rayner also realized that stimulus generalization had occurred. Albert did not only fear the rat after conditioning, but many similar objects that were furry and/or white. This included Rayner's fur coat and Watson wearing a Santa Claus beard. This experiment helped to provide proof and an example of classical conditioning and stimulus generalization, and it is seen as an iconic and well-known experiment in the field of psychology.